Another Sunday, another draft, but we don't have as many left as you might think. We are under double digits, but we're going to fire into Drafters Championship, the $20 tournament. We're going to get a little bit unique, and I'm going to show you some of the tools on Spike Week that help me do that. So without further ado, let's get it. Good morning, everybody, on this fine Sunday, Independence Day weekend here in the U.S. And we are going to do our normal firing into a draft. We're going to get into it right away because it looks like we need quite a few people to get this tournament filled right now. We are going to be entering. We need 10 more. So if you're interested, jump in. How's it going, Marie? What's going on, Self? And we're going to be using some tools that we normally use. Obviously, our draft overlay that helps us get unique. But I am going to be doing something else as well. That's no good, Jonathan. Sorry, your internet went out. I'm going to show you guys one of the tools that we have at Spike Week that helps us really understand how drafters think. And let's go ahead and pull it up while we're waiting for this draft to get in. And I hope everybody can see that. I'll zoom in a little bit to make this a little easier to see. Good morning, Rodney. And let me throw some music on, and then we'll start talking about it and how I'm going to be using this tool in the future to sort of make the lineups that I want to make. So this is our tournament DB. And I have DraftKings displayed, even though we're going to be drafting on Drafters, because DraftKings just released all of their info on their tournaments. So we're going to be looking at specifically at their flagship tournament. And you can sort of dissect this and see that it's probably going to be the same for all three sites for the most part, for Drafters, DraftKings, and probably Underdog as well. I mean, Fast Draft is a whole different beast, but relatively a few different outliers, but here and there's going to be a lot of overlap. And while we're waiting for this draft to fill, I'll just kind of show you what I look at. And we're just going to we're going to get real easy with it and look at Jamar Chase. And if I put Jamar Chase into this, Bias wants to know how many neighbors GT teams are out there. We can look at that in a second. But let's start by looking at Jamar Chase. So drafters that draft Jamar Chase, you can see that with all these first picks, obviously it's 0%. They couldn't get to him. The first player that comes off the board afterwards is Devon Achane. 1% of teams, 87 teams currently roughly have Devon Achane with Jamar Chase. But if we look at this side of the board here, right? We have Trey McBride and T. Higgins that are both over 24 and 29%. So people really go on autopilot on these ends here, and they take just like these next guys. And you can see that they're also just taking Josh Jacobs, Bucky Irving, 19, 23% respectively. And they're also grabbing Joe Burrow at 30% clip. So we're seeing that the concentration of picks are like really these couple guys here. Garrett Wilson's 11%, Chase Brown's 12%, and then we're really hitting Joe Burrow later in drafts when we can. So just by knowing that, we can sort of see what our opponents are doing, and we can leverage it quite a bit. Regina says she'll take Hulk Hogan, Tony Montana, and Lyndon B. Johnson in a square thing. Yes, she knows nothing about best ball. That's okay. What's going on, Bruce? So that's the stuff that we are looking at with this. Also, make sure that you're jumping into this $20 tournament if you want to draft so that we can get that going. But there are other things that you can see from this board that I found real interesting when I was looking through stuff. And if we go to Saquon Barkley, we're going to notice things that we've been preaching and then some other things that I was really unaware of. But if you look at Saquon, he's getting drafted a ton with Josh Jacobs again. They're on the ends. Bucky Irving's at 15%. Jonathan Taylor's at 7%. T. Higgins is 20%. We got a lot of Trey McBride here as well. But for the most part, the wide receivers are not heavily getting invested with Saquon Barkley. We're seeing a lot more of the running backs. And the thing that I found super interesting with Saquon Barkley, and this actually carries over to like Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs as well. So all of your elite running backs, people are pounding elite QB with these guys. I mean, Barkley's at 20% with T. Higgins, but you also see that Joe Burrow's 10%, Josh Allen is 19%, Jalen Hurts is 17%, Lamar Jackson is 12%. You start adding those numbers up, you're at over 50% of teams with Saquon Barkley are with elite quarterback. So what that tells me is if I'm drafting a Saquon team, then I do not want to draft an elite quarterback with it, with the exception of Jaden Daniels, who is only 3% with Saquon Barkley. So you can find leverage points like that throughout each of these players. And then you can even do it by looking at combinations. So just to go back to Jamar, because everyone wants to do this Jamar Chase, T. Higgins double with Burrow. But if you look, so this is going to show us all of our Jamar Chase and T. Higgins teams. As you can see, they're both 0% because they're being represented here of the players being drafted with them. Right now, when you're doing that, Joe Burrow is on 49% of those teams. 49% of the Jamar Chase T. Higgins teams has Joe Burrow. So if you're doing a double, it just basically is coming preloaded with Joe Burrow. So what's your leverage point? Not taking Joe Burrow, right? And this is a great place to maybe take Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson with this double, because they're only at 3 or 2% respectively. People aren't doing it. It gives you leverage on the field. Then you can see the players that are also getting drafted, like Tet's 13%, Devonta Smith is 16%, Bucky and Josh Allen 13%. So these are the things that I'm interested in. These are what I'm looking at when I'm trying to build out my portfolios to get unique. And I haven't been drafting a ton of the early running backs. And my new theory is if I want to draft Gibbs or Robinson, or if you wanted to do a Barkley, I can draft 4% of these guys and I can make a more powerful 4% versus my opponent's 8% just by leveraging what standard drafters are doing. So that is something that I am super interested in. And that is my like overall rant. So Pius wants to know how many Neighbors GT teams there are. So we'll look at Neighbors GT. And you're going to see like these combinations a little bit more on the playoff sites, the sites that you're drafting for playoff stuff, for week 17 correlation and stuff like that, more so than drafters, although it'll happen just naturally by ADP a bit. But if we look at this, well, you wanted to know the exact number, so let's start by doing this. So Malik Neighbors with Ashton GT is at 3% currently. So if you can get a Neighbors GT team, you're in pretty good company at the moment by being pretty underweight. So that's kind of the thesis there. That's what we want to do. We need to get this $20 filled so that we can go ahead and draft. Sort of put some of these principles into practice. If we have to, we'll jump in the $3, but I would prefer not to. I would prefer to jump in the $20 just because I have more of those. Is early round unique greater than late round unique builds? Well, I personally think so. I don't have like insane data to back that up, but I think if you're getting early unique combos, you are making sure that you're leveraging the field. Whereas like, so I'll just sort of show you an example. Let's pull up Bijan Robinson. Because when you start to get down the board, right, like we see these heavy percentages with like Bijan 21, 19%, 14%, 12% with Jalen Hurts. See again, we look at these elite QBs. You see Joe Burrow's at 8, Jalen Hurts 12. Lamar is not as heavily drafted here, so you could do Bijan with Lamar and Josh Allen. He might have been the one outlier with the elite QBs. Oh, I'm looking at drafters. That's why. Sorry. Let me fix what I'm doing here. I knew that didn't sound right. So let's look at Robinson. And yeah, see, this makes more sense. Burrow's 9, Jalen Hurts is 12, Josh Allen's 12, Lamar's 10. But you see these heavy exposure rates with certain players. When you start to scroll down the board, though, and you start to get to late round stuff, you start to see that these numbers just sort of level out. We're looking at 9, 8, 11, 7, 10, like throughout the rest of the draft when we're down here, right? So that's the stuff that when you say late round, how are you providing that late round unique build, right? That's where I would be curious as to what the method is to provide late round. Are you just waiting for ADP value? Because it's great. I love ADP value. I love being able to get players past where they're normally going, but it's not a given. And if that ADP value doesn't fit the build that you've already started, doesn't matter. And the later you get, the less it matters about ADP value, if all of that makes sense. So I personally think that the best way for me to leverage the entire field is to provide my own leverage. And once you're providing your own leverage, so let's just go back to this Bijan Robinson example. There's a few guys that you have to like take with a grain of salt on this list, by the way. The ones that are moving it around quite a bit, like Rashee Rice is going to show up quite a bit on players because of how much he's moved. So a little bit of a grain of salt on that. And then like for the first round, Christian McCaffrey, who's moved up the most, I'd be a little careful in what I'm doing with him just based on his movement on the board. But overall, we know that these boards haven't moved a ton towards the top of the rounds. So if we look at Bijan and we're like, okay, we come back around, we see that people are drafting their second running back a shit ton with Bijan, which is something that we already knew was happening, that these elite running back drafters are trying to go double or triple. So Taylor's at 12%, Bucky Irving's at 14%, Jacobs is at 11, so that's 25. That's 37% right there. That's going RB. Then you add in Chase Brown, who's at, makes it like 43%. And then you have the elite quarterbacks. So what we notice is that our leverage is probably, we draft Bijan Robinson, we come back here, grab Marvin Harrison at 9%, grab Devontae Adams, grab JSN as one of your second or third round picks, and do it with 2 wide receivers, right? There's your bit of leverage right there. Grab some of these guys that aren't getting drafted with him at all. If you do want to do double elite running back, I mean, I know you don't like Kyren Williams, most of you, which I think he's just fine. I don't have a lean on Kyren this year, but look at Breece Hall. So if you grab Bijan, you still wanted to do in a double elite running back build, you grab Bijan, you come back around, let's just say you grab Rashee Rice, you get back to your third round pick, just pull Breece Hall up. He's only getting drafted 2% of the time with Bijan Robinson. There's your leverage. There's the build you still want to do, or leverage the build is what I tend to care about doing a little bit more. So I'll give this about 5 more minutes to fill. If not, we'll just jump in at $3 and we'll draft that. So these are the things that I'm looking at for these players. A good one to look at is technically my favorite start, and showing you why it's not as great as it probably feels when you get it. One of my favorite starts is going Nico and Brian Thomas Jr. And you can see that right now they are getting drafted 17% of the time, which isn't terrible. So if you are able to get like that Nico Brian Thomas Jr. start, we've just see that this number is at 17%. It's getting drafted heavily together. So if I put them together, right, and I start showing the board of who's getting drafted with them, Breece Hall's getting drafted with those two at 28% of the time, which is not what we want to see. We don't want to see 28% of a player with this start. So that start is just 1 out of every 4 Nico, Derrick Henry teams, a little bit more, is starting a Breece Hall. See Devontae Adams at 15%. You see that people do not like to take Kyron, right? And then you just start to see this part of the board get really low. So instead of Breece Hall, because we're going here, we're drafting, we're probably getting it from like the 12 hole, right? So we can draft, we'll just say the 12 hole. We come back for the 3-12. Instead of drafting Breece Hall, maybe we grab another wide receiver. Maybe we grab Jalen Hurts to go with these two that's only getting drafted 2% of the time. We could do Amari Hampton if you wanted to grab a running back, if that's something that you're interested in. But you can sort of see how once people do these certain combos, they just get really filtered into drafting the same players over and over and over again because they just stick to the side of the board. They feel like it's just like a cozy spot. They don't want to mess it up, so they just draft what the best available is. And I think it's just an easy leverage point. Grab George Kittle with this build, right? 6%. We're fine with 6%. You just come back on the 3rd round and you grab George Kittle and DJ Moore, or George Kittle, Jameson Williams, if that's someone you're into, or George Kittle, Jalen Hurts, or Amari Hampton. Not only are you leveraging George Kittle at 6%, that hasn't been done as much. Now you're getting George Kittle with Jalen Hurts, which has probably been barely done. So thank you for joining my TED Talk on how I am spending the majority of my summer building my teams, trying to make sure that they are quite unique. And I hope all of that made sense, and I hope I didn't go too fast, but those are the tools that Spike Week provides you with the data that we are given. So I hope that made sense to everybody. We still need quite a few more for this draft. I would love for you guys to jump in. We need 7 more. We might have to jump in the $3. We're going to give it a few more minutes. I would love for you guys to join. I'd love to fire into this. I haven't fired into it for the majority of the week. I have started taking shots at the $3, and I did a lot of these drafts just trying to get my June bonus that the site was providing. So as you can see, I still have a ticket to use from that. So I am excited to fire into this tournament, and I would love to do it. But perhaps we'll just fire into this $3. I'll give it 2 more minutes, 10, 20, and if we can't get it filled, we'll fire into the $3. Or if that one fills, we'll register both, and whichever starts first, we will do. Which I also think is acceptable. All right. No problem at all, Rodney. I hope it made sense. I hope that stuff like that helps people think of the game a little bit differently, helps you understand how to leverage information, which is something that when I say we do in poker, I don't play poker nearly like I used to. But we have a game of information here, and when we have the information to use, and when we have our instincts and we know how people play, we know draft strategies, when we start to blend all of that up, we start to look at ways to optimize how to leverage all that information. And although you're not playing a specific opponent one-on-one, when you start to take all of the data that we have, you can start to leverage the data. Cool. I'm glad that helped. That's why I pulled it up. So, and to Best Ball on Call's point, he says it's way easier to comprehend when you see it laid out like that. I think that's something that happens is when we talk about this stuff, it's we understand it from a fundamental level. Like if I told you before I showed you that graph, Saquon drafters are drafting their second and third running back earlier than people that start with a wide receiver in general, you would say, yeah, sure. But then when you start to attach numbers to it, you can see just how overexposed the field is to doing that. Because the people that don't, like myself, I haven't been drafting Saquon, right? So if I haven't been drafting Saquon, that allows people that are more of the elite running backs contingent to draft them and draft them in the way that they want to. So now that I've taken him out of my player portfolio, it allows them to draft him, and then they're going to draft, Jonathan Taylor if he's there, or Josh Jacobs, like we saw. It just allows for that to continue, and it gets that to build up. And the epiphany I sort of had when we were doing the lab, which if you have access to Spike Week tools, the lab is definitely something you should be in on Wednesday nights, even if you can't make every Wednesday night. It's a lot of people that you see in the lobbies. We get together on a call and we sort of talk about what we think is happening in drafts, how we should attack them. It's a great thought-provoking call that you might not always agree with everything, but just seeing the point of view of other drafters and what they're seeing, you could still sort of mold those ideas into your own. And that's sort of what I preach is I'm showing you stuff. I'm going to show you how I'm going to attack it. But if you feel like there is a different way to attack it, you should by all means do that. So I think just getting back to that point that I was making as I sidetracked myself is knowing it in your head and like being like, I know that drafter X is going to do this most of the time. Drafter Y is going to do this most of the time. We know it, but because we don't see the actual information, we allow it to just sort of slip by us and we don't alter our game. And when you start to see, breakdowns like that, that's when you're like, oh, so now I'm attaching percentage numbers to it. And not only is situation A happening, which I thought was going to happen, situation B being, for me, elite quarterbacks getting drafted at a hefty clip with these elite running back builds. It's like, okay, so let's take a step back. And let's say that I haven't been drafting Saquon, Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, which I relatively haven't versus the field. Should I be drafting them? And if I do draft them, how should I do it to leverage it? And that's sort of how I've been thinking. So I might be drafting more Saquon, more Bijan, more Jahmyr Gibbs teams. Not a lot, but I feel like if I can draft 4% of those teams and just every single one I draft is leveraged against the field's 8%, my 4% is more powerful than the field. So that accomplishes two things for me too. Not only am I leveraging the field on the builds that I'm doing with those players, even though I'm doing it with less teams, my leverage is far more powerful overall. I'm still allowing myself to be overweight on the players that I want to be overweight on. Right. So I think that is something that I am really cognizant of as I draft going forward. What's going on, Bing King? And Self says it's fun to use a player that you don't draft often to build a unique team. I agree. And I also think that it allows you, I think it helps you with that thought experiment way more. Well, I guess both could. So if we draft a player, so Nico's like my big player this year, right? Like that's who I'm pulling up. And let's just sort of look at that. I pulled Nico up to the 102 or the 103. I've provided leverage on Nico teams already. Because as you can see, if I'm drafting Nico at the 102 or the 103, he's barely getting drafted with Josh Jacobs, if that's something you were interested in doing. Trey McBride's 1%. Bucky Irving's 1%. Again, Rashee Rice is going to be an outlier in this just because of his movement across the board. Jonathan Taylor's 1%. AJ Brown's 1%. Right? So 2 things there with AJ Brown. I can grab Nico early and get leverage and grab AJ Brown if he falls, or I can just pull AJ Brown up and get a Nico Collins, AJ Brown team, which seems fine. Right? But if I'm moving Nico up to this side of the board, as soon as I do that, my leverage is provided. I can just draft like normal from that point out and just grab the players on this side of the board with him. That's already provided massive leverage because you're taking guys like, you take Josh Jacobs and Garrett Wilson, right? That's 0 and 3%. Now, they might be drafted together a lot, but they're not drafted with Nico Collins together a lot. And I can show that as well. So if we do Jacobs and Garrett Wilson, yes, the easiest way to do it would be this way. So these are the teams that are drafted with Josh Jacobs and Garrett Wilson. One team has been done with Nico Collins that way. One team. There's one Nico Collins, Josh Jacobs, Garrett Wilson team. And if you went up to somebody and were like, hey, I just drafted Nico, Josh Jacobs, and Garrett Wilson, they'd be like, that seems fine. Seems like a standard draft. But only one person has done it. So that is the stuff that I just really think is overly important. What we're going to do is I'm going to join the $3, and whichever one of these fills first, we will draft. So we are registered for the 20. We are also registered for the $3, and that is we will just draft whichever one comes first. Is the game plan here. Looks like the $3 is probably going to fill much sooner than that $20, which is perfectly fine. We are okay with it. We will survive. All right. If it gets close, I'm just going to pull the plug on the 20 before it pulls up. Being King is asking, how quickly or if any do you see Tyler Boyd building chemistry with Cam Ward, and how solid could you see Boyd's role becoming in the Titans offense with Ward? I think it's over for Tyler Boyd, man. Like, he's just not a guy that I want to place the bet on with the Titans. What is he at best? What do you win with Tyler Boyd in general? He's never really done it to a level that we want him to do it to. I mean, we were drafting him as the 3rd Bengals wide receiver, just hoping and praying for things for a number of years. I'm going to unregister from this $20. And we're just going to focus on doing this $3. So, I don't know, man. I'm playing the Titans through Io Manor. I'm playing it through Chig. I'm not really touching Boyd or Lockett at all. I mean, I even think that this is ambitious, like for him to get 56, 650, and 6. And if he does get that, what does that do for your team? Because I think it comes front weighted. So are you getting enough juice on a site like Drafters where it's cumulative scoring? And are you getting enough juice on a site like Underdog or DraftKings where it's playoff weighted? So like, what is the upside case for Tyler Boyd? Because 56, 650, and 6 feels like quite a bit for him. I think there's a situation that it's 0-0-0, right? So I don't know. I think I'm just looking more so to take the upside shots with players at that range. I'm just pulling this off so that I can just get it on a tab rather than on the actual thing, because we don't have to show the tournament DB anymore. But I hope you guys did enjoy that. I hope you guys enjoyed looking at tournament DB. and sort of seeing some of the stuff that I'm very passionate about in terms of that stuff. Like that's the stuff that I'm very much into, is getting those sort of things. Well, that's what we're guessing on, right? Outside of Ridley, who's going to have a decent wide receiver role for the Titans. We don't know. So we don't know, but my preferred method would just be to take the shots on the guys that have a little bit more upside. So I don't even like Lockett, but I prefer Lockett over Tyler Boyd. And I would just take one of the two rookies over, because the Titans aren't good, which probably won't be. We're going to see middle of the season to end of the season, the rookies get more of a chance. See Puka get pulled up to the 103 here. We're drafting from the 110. Who do we have in here? We have FF Links in here. We have Self is in here. If you're in here, shout it out. Links, you absolute madman. You already have 69 entries into this tournament. It's amazing. That is incredible. John is at the 103. He's the one who pulled up Puka. That'll be a fun team. Are you talking about Nick Westbrook-Akine being king? Because he is no longer... Oh, you're just saying he's a similar comp to Boyd? Because you're not saying that Westbrook's on the Titans still, right? King of QC is at the 11th spot. Because Westbrook-Akine is on Miami. All right, it is going to be our pick here in a second. And we do see Nico go, so we're going to grab Malik Neighbors here at the 110. We are fine with it. And I'll explain what my percentages are on screen here after my next pick. Because these are also very helpful for the stuff that I have been sort of talking about here. Man, I just do not have a lot of Drake London. Okay, we're going to take Drake London. If you look at my percentages, the one that's showing 12% is our projected ownership with our first round pick, and the second one is with our second round pick. So obviously that's going to be 0. And I'm going to take London. I'm going to just sort of show you guys on players down here. What my percentages are. So if we look at a player like Chase Brown, that 25% is my tourney percentage. So right now that's just showing me what I've done in the $3, which this is only my 5th team. So you're going to see stuff in 0, 25, 50, 75% for players on this one. This isn't my overall drafters. It doesn't include the $20 or the other $2. But in this tourney, I've drafted Chase Brown 25% of the time. Then it goes with my first quarterback, who I haven't drafted a quarterback yet, so that's going to be 0% for everybody. Then my next one that you see 100% is with my round 1 draft pick. So I've drafted another Malik Neighbors team in this tournament, and on that team I drafted Chase Brown with my round 2. So that's with Drake London. So I have not drafted him at all with Drake London in this tournament. And then this is our projected ownership. The 7% is our projected ownership with our first round pick. So 7% of teams are going to have Chase Brown. Malik Neighbors is what we're projecting. And then 2% of teams are going to have Chase Brown with Drake London. So hopefully that is um, that is making sense to everybody. Big King is saying that maybe he's just a little higher on Cam Ward, have higher expectations than I do. I'm fine with Cam Ward. I think he's one of the better value quarterbacks on the board, but I don't think you have to tie Cam Ward specifically only being able to do it through Tyler Boyd. If that's the guy that you're noticing something, you think that's your leverage, you should definitely be drafting him. For me, he just doesn't have the profile of a player that I want to pair with a Cam Ward. I mean, if we're looking at overall expectations, I think Cam Ward could have a good statistical season, especially because I don't think the Titans are going to be very good overall. So I think that's why he's a good pick. But again, Tyler Boyd is Tyler Boyd, who is Tyler Boyd. Like we know what Tyler Boyd is. He's not going to get better than he's been. He's not going to break out at age 30 into a level that we just absolutely feel him as an asset. Now, that being said, 20th round pick, you can take a couple shots on him. You can pair him with Cam Ward. If that is an edge for you, you 100% should be taking those shots. I just prefer to play it through Chig, through Calvin Ridley on occasion. Ridley's a little hard click for me just because I'm usually doing different other things in that range, but I should probably have more of him. Io Manor is the other guy that I'd rather have because I think that he's going to have more opportunity as the season goes along. 3, 2, 1. All right, we are on the clock, and we're going to look at some of these percentages. Sort of see that a lot of these guys are pretty much all getting the same stuff around here for ownership. I don't want Kyron because he is really heavily weighted with Drake London. I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to take DJ Moore here. Then I'm going to look down a little bit and start looking at some of these guys. And I see something that I want to do here that just isn't done too much. So see Jinty, Brian Thomas, Josh Allen, George Kittle go to the 12 hole. Gets a stud at every position to start. All right, so we do see Jaden Daniels go here to King of QC. As I said, Kyren Williams is not a great pick for this team based on him being heavily drafted with neighbors and especially with Drake London. If I'm looking at running backs, there's a few things I can do here. If I can take Kenneth Walker. He's 7% with neighbors, which is standard, and then 4% with Drake London, which is underweight. Or I can do Amarian Hampton, who is 5 and 3%. And that's what I'm going to do. Just seems like there's not a lot of neighbors London teams that have Amarian Hampton, if any at all. If it is, it's very underweight. And I think I'm just going to grab him now. And I don't mind pulling him up a little bit here. So that's one thing that we're going to do. Okay, I'm going to wrap this Tyler Boyd conversation after my next comment. But Ben King says that Tyler is a floor play, sure, but his floor may be consistent enough to produce points to keep you afloat during bye weeks or a down week. Again, I ask you, in what format? What format are you drafting Tyler Boyd in that you like that? And what is his floor? Because I think his floor is, he could be 0-0-0. I think there's a chance that he doesn't get on the field with this team, especially after the first few weeks. It's a risk that if that's something like, again, if you think that's an edge for a player, you should be piling into that player a little bit. The price is obviously easy to do with him. but he's a floor play for which site, right? Do you want a guy that's going to get you 6 points? Like, what does that do for you at that point in your 18th round? Your other guy should be taking that. What is his ceiling? Is he ever a ceiling play for you? Is Tyler Boyd in the 18th or 20th round of an underdog or DraftKings draft going to come in week 15, 16, or 17 and help you advance out of your pod? I doubt it. Is he a guy that is going to hit your lineup consistently enough on a drafters team throughout the season to help keep you on top of the leaderboard? I doubt it. I don't think he's capable of dropping a 20-point game at all, never mind a 30 or 40-point game. So if I'm taking shots in the late rounds, it's guys with upside. I like Alec Ironmanner on the same team. Might be an absolute zero, but I know that at least he is going to potentially see the field more because he's a rookie that they want to build the team through. They don't want to build the Titans through Tyler Boyd. And this goes for other players in that range. We've been wrong on these guys before, but I just, at that point, when I've already drafted the majority of my team, I'm usually drafting for upside in those late round picks, and I don't see any upside that Tyler Boyd provides. And the song ended right at the end of my rant. So there's our Tyler Boyd talk. We have finished. It has come to a conclusion. All right. What do we want to talk about next? Probably our next pick, correct? That would be my guess. Yeah, if you're looking at Cam Ward overall, I think, again, he's probably fine. Our projections are probably looking more at him. We are on the clock here. I am actively trying to get a little bit more Jawan Jennings. So let's go ahead and take him. I think this sets me up for exactly what I want to do on my next pick as well. Okay, perfect. Yeah, we're going to be fine on our next pick. Yeah, so I think Cam Ward's fine. Cam Ward, I prefer to pair him with like Chig. I think that you can get a lot of decent. I think you can provide. You can combine him with some of his running backs as well. Chuba, Rico Dowdle. I think that's all fine stuff. If you really wanted the vet, I would be Tyler Lockett. But Tyler Lockett is sort of the same rant as my Tyler Boyd one. And I think he actually provides a little more upside. All right, we are on the clock again. And I think I want to grab DeAndre Swift for this team. So we're going to go Hampton and Swift here. There it is. There it is. But I think it is important to have conversations like that. I think we should be looking at these back-end players and having the conversations on why I should or shouldn't draft player X in round 20. I mean, we're playing the lottery back there anyways. But if we're playing the lottery, I think we want to be trying to win $2 million rather than $10 if the price of the lottery ticket is the same. I hope that analogy makes sense for you guys. I hope that really made sense. It makes sense in my head, so I hope it makes sense for all of you. And I might use it again, unless it's absolutely an insane thing I just said. Which, Also possible. It is super possible that what I just said makes no sense at all. So let me know if that analogy or that non sequitur. Who knows? I should know. I write enough. Sat there and wrote an entire script yesterday. Hit myself in the head with a hammer by the end of it. But we got most of it done. I still have to write the best ball shanty for this year, which I've been given a lot of good material this year for the best ball shanty. I'm still trying to figure out which song I want to do it to. I don't think I can do the week 17 one again. I did it twice. I think I have to retire that one. Really like the team that Lynx is building here. At least the structure of it. But yeah, I think I have to retire the week 17 shanty. And if I did decide to do it again this year, I would never do it again after this year. 3 times is just like the end of it. Yeah, most of them. Self says that veteran players are the equivalent of min cashing in a poker tournament. Because a lot of times you're catching them on their slide down and out of the league if they're getting drafted at around that point. Right? There's very few Jawan Jennings, and even Jawan Jennings was much younger than some of the other ones, but like DeAndre Hopkins this year. DeAndre Hopkins is only getting drafted where he's getting drafted because of his name. Otherwise, he just wouldn't be drafted at all. So I think you just got to be cognizant of that. I might get put in a really tough spot here. Shit. Oh my god. I think I have to take Pollard. It hurts my soul to do this, but I'm going to take Pollard. Son of a bitch, I hate it. I think it's just better for this team, which makes me want to vomit. And I like Tony Pollard, but I just... Where are we going, King of QC? I knew it. I knew he was going to rip my heart out. Yeah, I much would have loved to get... All right. I really don't know what I want to do here. Screw it. Let's just lean into this veteran pocket of running backs and figure out how to save ourselves a bit at wide receiver. I do like getting Swift, Pollard, Aaron Jones, Amari, and Hampton. I haven't been drafting a ton of Aaron Jones, but I do want some Aaron Jones. I don't want to be completely gone. I really want Jaden Reed there. Well, I wanted Jaden Reed where we took Pollard. And upon reflection, should we have looked at RBs? Maybe the play would have been to take Reed there. I was just really comfortable with getting Pollard, Jones, Jordan Mason on the return. I mean, getting them with Jaden Reed as well, not Pollard. Pollard I had to take first. Yeah, I should take Reed probably. Probably should have just done what I wanted to do and then taken the third running back. Yeah, that's probably a mistake. But I need to evaluate those decisions a little bit better. I need a time extension. Okay. Anybody do anything fun for the holiday weekend? I got to go to a friend's house. Did a seafood boil outside. Had a fire. Just a very relaxed 4th of July, which was nice. I needed that. Between work and content over the next 2 to 3 months, I won't have many days to do anything like that again, starting tomorrow. So I took a 4-day weekend and sort of just worked on some stuff, but sort of just chilled a bit as well. Because tomorrow we just really hit the ground running, and I will be back to probably 80 to 90 hour weeks of working on something at all times. So felt good to sort of have that. All right, so we set this team up for Caleb. And although we set it up for Caleb, maybe we double tap quarterback here. Let's grab Purdy to go with Jennings. We do have a drafter behind us that has George Kittle. Neither of the guys behind us have Chicago Bears. So if we take Purdy, that should leave Caleb relatively safe for us. And you just double tap quarterback and be done with it. And that's what we'll do. Just get completely done with QB. Do San Fran and Chicago stacks. And just build off of this 2-4-4-0 build that we have right now. That sounds like a great weekend. Yeah, we did a seafood boil, which in New England is great. However, I'm from here. I'm from Massachusetts, but I grew up for about 8 years of my life as a kid in Mississippi. So I got a lot of food culture between the two. And although overall seafood is better up here, right on the ocean, there are some things that I like from down there. And we went back to New Orleans. Well, I went back to New Orleans with some friends to film this past September, I think it was. We went and got to eat crawfish, have some truly Southern food for like 4 days, and it's amazing. And we were really wishing we could have got some crawfish to throw in our seafood boil this past weekend, but you just really really tough to get them up here. So that would have been nice. But overall, seafood boil was really good. Yeah, Mississippi. Yeah, so born up here in Massachusetts, about 30 minutes south of Boston. And then when I was 8, I moved right to the Gulf Coast of Mississippi. You know, then we moved back here when I was like 15. So Massachusetts and Mississippi, the two states that I've actually lived in. We do see that the red wedding has begun, as Eric has termed it, when all the quarterbacks start to go off the board. You see a bunch of red here. But yeah, I've been lucky enough to travel the majority of this country now and be able to try not all of, but a healthy portion of local favorites amongst the country. I completely disagree. I think this is a terrible take, personally, and to each their own. But to say there comes a point in a draft when you're not drafting for ceiling, when we're looking at lottery players, what are you drafting for? The players that provide you a floor are up here for that reason. Some of them are strictly floor plays. So when you're in the back end, why would you not be drafting for ceiling? That seems very strange to me, to have that particular take. All right, so I'm pretty good at running back. We're obviously done at quarterback. Let's grab Mims. And figure out what we want to do next. Yeah, I think that when you're drafting a 20th round player, you should strictly be drafting for potential ceiling and upside. If there was a 20th round player that was legitimately a floor play, he wouldn't be in the 20th round. You see those guys get pushed up if they actually have a floor, like a legitimate floor. So I would be careful with that mentality towards the back end of drafts. You'll leave with more underwhelming teams than you think. All right, so we have Purdy, we have Caleb Williams. Let's just go ahead. I think we'll just grab another running back here. Let's grab Garendo. Son of a bitch, did I get timeout? God damn it. Oh my God. Oh my God. I cannot believe I just drafted Jared Goff here. And now we are happy this is a $3 and not a $20. Sorry, I had to mute the mic for that one. Oh my God. And that's why you should always at least star a player as you're making a decision. What an absolute nightmare. South wants my thoughts on Mims. I think he's overpriced significantly for what I want to draft him for. I definitely prefer him on DraftKings and Underdog versus drafters. all of that being said, I don't want 0 of Mims on any site, but I'm just keeping my exposure real flat on him. So I mean, I prefer Pat Bryant obviously to him. Denver's a real tricky team overall, I think, to draft. I think that they go in weird pockets. Like, I'm a guy who likes Cortland Sutton. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's how we fix this. But I'm fine with Cortland Sutton. I think he's going a little too high, so he gets tougher to draft. Bo Nix is right at the beginning of this quarterback range, right? He goes right after Mahomes, so he's pretty tough to draft. Ingram feels like you're usually looking for something else in this range, so Ingram gets tough to draft. And then Mims feels like he's a little too expensive, so he's tough to draft. So I've been making myself sort of click Denver players here and there just to make sure that I'm not 0% and only sitting there with RJ Harvey bags. But Mims, we've seen that he's capable of just providing an explosion week or two, and that's why I prefer him on other sites versus drafters. But if I can get him, usually I would prefer him as like my 5th wide receiver, like here, or 6th even, and just hope to get, it's sort of the same thesis as Quentin Johnston, but Quentin Johnston is a little bit cheaper. So I don't hate him. Prefer him on teams that I feel like he can help me advance in a single week rather than an overall season. But I don't think he's terrible enough to not draft, right? South does grab QJ. So that's my overall thesis of the play there. But I also try to force myself into some of these Marvin Mims teams a little more by when I try to take Bo Nix. But man, they're all hard clicks. Like, I just think Denver's really hard to draft overall. So it's one of those teams that I am trying to be a bit cognizant on. We're just going to start Tyler Algier so that we don't have another absolute meltdown here. I have to mute the mic again and start swearing. Let's grab Algier. That Goff pick really hurts the overall build of this team. Yeah, when he's able to get on the field, which is the problem. Which is the problem for everyone in Denver, to be completely honest. The only guy who felt constantly on the field or consistently on the field is Cortland Sutton. And I think he will be again. He's just expensive. So, like, when is Mims going to be on the field? We're getting hype on Troy Franklin. We're seeing Pat Bryant get talked up that he's Michael Thomas Jr. Like, it's insane levels of hype on some of these players. Yeah, we could have just waited on Pat Bryant. God damn, this team got really wrecked here. What did I want to do? We're going to have to grab Kyle Pitts. Because Goff should have been a running back at minimum. This should have been a wide receiver. We should be at 6 wideouts. Just absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare of a draft. Sad times. Also feels like this draft is taking forever, doesn't it? Maybe we've just been flying a bit more through other drafts, but it feels like this one is going quite slow. That's okay. We shall survive. We will adapt and we will overcome. Anyone doing anything fun on this Sunday, or are we just chilling after a long weekend? Is this just a day to lay back and chill? Draft some best ball teams. I have to do some voiceover work today. Probably do that, edit some audio. I don't understand what you're trying to say here by he hasn't established his potential ceiling. That's why we draft him, because he's a rookie with a wide open palette. We know that we're drafting zeros sometimes back there. Okay. We're going to really have to dig out with this team. Not our greatest effort on stream. Went from drafting a team I really liked last Sunday to trying to fix this one. But we shall. We'll fix it. Really overweight on Atlanta. We got an Atlanta stack without the quarterback, which is fine. We stacked Purdy with Juwan Jennings. We have Caleb with DeAndre Swift and DJ Moore. Like, it's got the makings of a solid team. Just this Goff pick really hurt us. This is a 2 quarterback team for me all day. I don't need anything other than Purdy and Caleb at that point. It's the whole reason I double tapped quarterback. So I know it sounds like we're dwelling on it, but what we need to do in these situations is just sort of plan our way around it, right? Like, obviously it's not our best case scenario, but we know sort of how we want to dig out going forward. And we're going to start that dig out process in a second by drafting De'Ami Brown as our 6th wide receiver. I'm going to do some scrolling just to see. Are we going to see Darren Waller move up way too high? It's probably going to happen, right? See Justice Hill go. I'm going to grab Alec Pierce. I think at this point with Pitts, I'm probably going to have to play this as 3 tight ends as well. We got 4 picks left. Probably giving 2 of these to the tight end position. Probably 1 more receiver, 1 more running back. I think Bing King has a mature fetish. um, Look, Keenan Allen, I'm just not even drafting anymore. We've sort of learned our lessons with these late edition veterans, even when they have a name. I mean, the biggest instance, of course, is Will Fuller. But I'm fine with not drafting Keenan Allen or Amari Cooper at this point. And if they beat me, they beat me. So I have no real thoughts on them as of July 6th, other than I'm just not drafting them. And then when they do get signed, they'll probably get overdrafted. They'll get moved up to levels that they just probably shouldn't get moved up to. So I think I'm good. I don't really see a need to draft them anymore. I was dabbling, and then that dabble sort of fizzled out. But in terms of where Keenan Allen makes sense to go to, I don't really know. I mean, you bring up Arizona, which I think would be a fine fit. The Rams, maybe? We're not looking for him to be a stud, just looking for him to be on the field, I guess. I don't know. Like, maybe the Rams. I mean, he's best suited for a team that just needs a veteran presence because the wide receiver room's in shambles. Probably be like the Saints, but I don't think he'd ever go to the Saints. So maybe Jacksonville. Maybe Jacksonville. He definitely doesn't need to go to Buffalo. That we know. Good Lord, that team with their wide receivers right now. I mean, he'd probably be really good for the Jets because they could probably use somebody. But from what we understand with Keenan Allen, he does not want to leave the West Coast. So I don't even think that's an actual option unless they give him some crazy guarantee money. So maybe the Jets would be the best fit for him overall. Yeah, Cards, as Bing King already brought up, and I've heard others say like that's where they sort of think they're going to see him. It's like, sure, I guess. All right, let's grab Darren Waller, I guess, just for the funsies of it. I think I won't be drafting much Darren Waller. I think you're going to see me get him like the next 48 hours or so, and then I know I'm going to talk myself out of ever drafting him. So let's go ahead and grab Darren Waller now before the crash out happens where I'm like, I'm not drafting Darren Waller because I know this is stupid, even though I already know it's stupid. And I want to take, with this running back room, I really want to take like an absolute swing at my 6 running back. When I have Swift, Pollard, Jones, Algier, and even Hampton, I just want an absolute upside stud here. And I think Taj Brooks sort of fits that. So let's do that. Let's grab Taj Brooks. So we're definitely done at QB. We're done at running back. We got 2 picks left. And we'll go over the team after that and eventually get out of here. Yeah, self. That's sort of like why I just did it here. I was just like, nah. Eh. HN and Waddle will definitely be the way I want to play Miami for the majority of the offseason. But I'll dip my toes in on Darren Waller here. Some of the very, very late round guys here and there. But Miami just feels like there's a lot of bad ways that can break. And starts with the head coach getting fired mid-season. Which, if that happens, then it's just a, dumpster fire already. Which is 100% what it was last year. Ooh, that's a great question. What offense am I most excited to see in week 1? Huh. That is a great question. What offense am I most excited to see in week 1? I mean, Chargers for sure are one of them. I really want to see how they're going to implement their wide receiver stuff. Denver is going to be an interesting one. I wouldn't say I'm most excited for Denver, but I'll find them intriguing to see. I really want to see what Green Bay and New England are doing come week 1. Really, really want to see what Green Bay's snap count is going to be for their wide receivers. We want to see what their running back depth chart is, what Marshawn Lloyd's doing. I mean, some of the stuff we might figure out by week 1, but I really want to see it in effect. So those I want to see for sure. I guess just some more of the unknown teams. Like, obviously, like, I want to see the Eagles play, but we know what the Eagles are. No, I think the Steelers are a little more intriguing. Like, I think there's at least intrigue in what they're gonna do with their tight ends, what their packages are gonna be. Like, I find them actually, like, I don't think it might just be wanting to watch a car wreck type of deal. We're gonna grab Tesla just to get some sort of stack here. So it might be that. I mean, the Bears might be right up there. I mean, we stacked them up in here, but I could figure out my season maybe on what the Bears do in week 1, barring like injuries throughout the season. So Chicago might be one of them. But I think the least intriguing are just the teams that we kind of know. Well, this is all gross. This feels like a Harold Fannin team. Maybe we just do Gadsden here. Let's do Harold Fannin. All right, so let's go over our team here, and then we'll get out of here. So, quarterback, we went Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams. We had the absolute catastrophic auto pick of Jared Goff. Running backs are Marion Hampton, DeAndre Swift, Tony Pollard, Aaron Jones, Tyler Algier, and Taj Brooks. Wide receivers are Malik Neighbors, Drake London, DJ Moore, Jawan Jennings, Marvin Mims, De'Ami Brown, Alec Pierce, Alec Tesla, Kyle Pitts, Darren Waller, Harold Fannin. Quite a few team stacks here, including Atlanta without the quarterback. Overall, that auto pick of Jared Goff really affected this team. I think we dug out but I would give this team, if I had to grade it, we'll go for my movie scale for when I review movies. This would probably be a 2.1 out of 5 is what I would give this team. Maybe a 2.2. But the golf pick really wrecks what we were trying to do. We had to dig out a bit. We saved it from being an absolute box office failure, but we probably aren't going to return our budget for the movie on this one. So that is my overall analysis of the team. All right, guys. It has been a lovely Sunday morning with you guys as usual. Hope to see you guys tomorrow night. Me and Eric will be doing a best ball draft. And that's our casual show. So we're also going to be talking about our 5 favorite hip hop albums of all time. So if that's something that interests you, make sure you are subscribed to Spike Week. And if you like those tools, those are available as well. Join us in the Discord. Other than that, I will catch you guys next Sunday, of course. Peace. Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.